Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to the Aleph Podcast. आज मेरे साथ हैं Faraz Haider,
Hello.
which you probably know from his music, whether it's from his heavier times or if his more recent, more pop
Many times. बहुत
sensibilities.
सारे different times. And,
Yeah.
I keep changing. Changing.
But how are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me here. It's good to be here, and I love this place anyway. मेरा दिल करता है कि कभी बार मैं अपना घर वर छोड़ के यहाँ आ जाऊँ, move in कर जाऊँ, कपड़े वपड़े ले आऊँ यहाँ पर.
हाँ ये तो we can discuss that later.
Yeah, you got a studio everywhere. And I think, next thing you know, you have a bathroom में वहाँ भी studio. Okay, you can take a shit and make music together, you know.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's been a long time coming, I guess.
Man.
We've been talking about
Yeah.
doing this for a while.
Yeah.
But as I was explaining earlier, it's in the tradition of this podcast to start with, like, what got you into music? What's your earliest memories of being inspired or thinking कि ये मुझे करना है?
Yeah, मेरा तो, as I was always a music producer, DJ, this kid who started making music on the MTV music generator on the PlayStation 1.
Wow.
And that got me into step sequencing and just understanding how DAW, the environment works and how to like sequence things and technical stuff.
Yeah.
I was never a singer. I was never ever a singer. I never considered myself a singer. But when I met Yasir Jalbani, who's the ex-guitarist of Andher, my band. Well, we're all ex now because the band's finished.
Yeah.
So Yasir se jab main mila, to I don't know what happened. I don't even know. Like there was a band, Arj, uska vocalist, mera cousin tha Haider, and then those guys kind of stopped doing music. And then one day, like out of the blue, I had this riff in my head. I was like, अच्छा उसको नया मुझे गिटार भी उसने मुझे सिखाया था. So like Yasir taught me a lot of guitars. I taught him a lot of sequencing. तो हम लोग एक दूसरे को बहुत चीज़ें सिखा रहे होते थे.
Nice.
Really good friend of mine. तो उन learning days में I was like यार मेरे पास एक riff आई है and उसके ऊपर so he was like just रुक जाओ यहाँ पर. We need to like now record the vocals. ये करो. वो खुद ही बन गया. And then he was like, I know a bassist, I know a drummer, and Kami and Estes उनको लेकर आया. And next thing you know, we have a band. What do we call the band? The music's really dark. Andher, चलो अंधेर कह देते हैं. हाँ, so it was very like out of the blue. खुद ही सब कुछ हो रहा है. I'm like, what the hell is happening? I'm supposed to be doing electronic music. मैं break beats बना रहा था. एकदम मैं, I'm like screaming. Yeah, एकदम, वो वाला scene शुरू हो गया. I'm like, चलो अच्छा है, you're learning.
Yeah.
So I think that was a gateway for me to get into live music.
Yeah.
Understanding the dynamics of how live music works, how like बजता कैसे है. मुझे तो पता है कि बनता कैसे और बजता कैसे मुझे नहीं पता. So I think my band really played a huge role in educating me about real music.
Yeah.
They introduced me to bands like Metallica, GNR, all the OGs and some alternatives as well. So I always I have a soft spot for all those band members कि उन्होंने मुझे बड़ा सिखाया है. तो इस तरह से मैं फिर सिंगर बन गया एंड kept happening. फिर उन सब की शादियाँ हो गई, बच्चे हो गए, तो फिर मैं अकेला रह गया. मैंने कहा कि अब मैं क्या करूँगा. तो फिर मैंने कहा कि मैं एक एल्बम बना लेता हूँ अंधेर के नाम से. That's the least I can do, pay a tribute to my band. तो फिर वो किया.
अच्छा, so that happened after the band actually had kind of moved
of course. Band actually खत्म हो गया था. उसके बाद I did a lot of alternate acoustic kind of music, English music actually. फिर उसके बाद I met Amir Rauf, who's managing me at that time. He started managing me. He said कि make an album करते हैं इसको. He heard अंधेर and then he was like, yeah, this is a good song. दुनिया घूम के मैंने बनाया. फिर 2-4 बनाए. फिर उसके बाद पूरी album बन गई. Some really memorable songs जो आमिर ने मुझे बड़ा हेल्प भी किया था. He we performed a couple of places. फिर ARY ने रिलीज भी की एल्बम The Music Records उस वक्त था.
But at this, like in getting a little bit more into the writing process, like did you did you write the lyrics yourself or did you get help with that?
Yeah, initially Yasir and I used to write it, and then again that the whole learning curve from the band kind of gave me an idea how to write, and I started writing. I think writing का अंदर कीड़ा हमेशा से था. तो यहाँ से फिर वो लिखना भी शुरू हो गया, प्रोड्यूस भी करना शुरू हो गया, and sometimes I felt कि am I going into this phase of becoming a jack of all trades, master of none तो नहीं हूँ कहीं. तो but then again I was good at what I was doing. At least everyone around me was telling me, हाँ ये सब सही है, you're doing the right things. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
फिर उसके बाद music से फिर filmmaking maybe and directing some of my own videos kind of was another gateway for me to get into filmmaking, post-production and CGI. There's a lot of technical skill involved here.
Yeah.
Rather than just a singer. So,
it's
a very small part actually. If I look at the whole aspect of myself as an artist, I never saw myself as a singer, and it was a very small part of my actual vision of creating content.
Right.
So फिर वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मुझे समझ आया कि मैं what is my purpose as an artist, and I felt in the past couple of years I've realized that I've found that, and it's mostly storytelling and filmmaking, because everything is a part of that. It becomes a part of that: music, writing, even acting, scoring, and then the post-production process, which is like the VFX and the CGI. And I'm a geek. I love playing games. I'm bachpan se video games. So I would want to get into game development, इस तरह की चीजें, some survival horror, my favorite genre, तो मैं हूँ तो dark ही अंदर से.
Yeah. No, but the reason I asked, about the lyric question is because from the outside, and also knowing you a bit at this point, you are ultimately a storyteller.
Yeah.
And you have been figuring out all the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, and how to enhance that story, how to tell it the best way, in your words, with your own vision,
with my own abilities and equipping myself with the right tools to tell that story. So you're on the mark here. But it took me a while to master the craft of actually executing and being able to tell that story instead of just having it in my head and just writing it down on a piece of paper. So it takes a lot of experience and work in the field to kind of understand how it's actually produced and presented to an audience. वो बड़ा मुश्किल से होता है.
But I think you also, and I think we're on a similar age, we are in that...
Don't mention it though.
No, we are in that generation where it was a little surprising to know that you learned sequencing before. Because, usually people of our generation learn an instrument and they're like, "Ocha, ye idea hai usko record karna hai." Then you learn that bit as a necessity.
Yeah. But, so it's interesting that I was a complete music illiterate when I actually knew how to make music. So it was really strange because I didn't know how to start, or it was just happening on its own. And then when I got educated, E major भी होता है कुछ, E minor भी होता है, chords होती हैं, and 4 से 5 strings बजाओ साथ तो वो chord बनता है. That whole idea, I was unaware of that when I was a kid. And my band, when they actually came in, and I used to jam with them, and they were discussing कि यार ये वाला chord है, this chord, this is how we're going to progress. And that kind of gave me a clear idea that, okay, there's a bridge, there's a chorus, there's this. Warna progressive ho raha tha sab kuch for me. I was just sequencing and progressing into something. And then, because I grew up listening to a lot of BT, Paul Oakenfold, Paul Van Dyke, Moby, Prodigy, a lot of industrial, 9 Inch Nails, your sare bands. And then I got into the rock. So there is a lot of that, a lot of electronica in my own music, as well as industrial, and in the rock genre. Abhi to khair, I'm doing multiple things because of my corporate clients. I get to produce every genre there is, from jazz to hip hop to rock.
Yeah.
Well, rock is kind of not the requirement.
Not the fad.
Prior,
Yeah.
not the fad. Exactly. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I wish it were.
Yeah.
Lekin, probably every genre there is, you can count on me to kind of like
I've been through.
बना दूंगा तो मसला ही नहीं है.
So, like, what was the overarching, like, kind of, vision when you were experimenting with all these things and trying to piece it all together? Like, like, lyrics bhi kis jagah se aa rahe the? Like, what were you trying to say? Because it seems like you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff that I did on my own, not with the band, was always like ballads and pyar and mohabbat, dil phank. I was a lover boy when in school. Like, every girl in school, like, probably rejected me. Yeah, so मैं कहा अब मैं revenge लूंगा, मैं star बन के दिखाऊंगा, they'll be the ones following me. That even didn't work, but so I was like, I need to fall in love with myself. The narcissist came out of the shell, वो vanity वाला scene शुरू हो गया. And that was also a challenge for me to like kind of like suppress, because that was kind of also destroying me. Just loving yourself too much, a little too much. Putting yourself ahead of everyone else, वो भी एक journey थी मेरी, जिससे 10 साल मुझे लगे उसमें से निकलने से. But generally, like, I keep going into this other direction, but generally the answer to your question is that it always came from the heart. It was about falling in love, finding true love, being in this fantasy, this perfect love, utopian relationship, where everything's fine, and nothing can destroy it. It's perfect. तो वो था. But with the band, like, a lot of different things happened. Like, we did some social commentary, we did some political stuff, a lot of good stuff. I actually prefer that now, because it kind of tells a better story than just love. I mean, love, to khair. It's a very small part. At least now in this day and age, love is kind of overrated. And talk is cheap,
I mean, there's so much more going on.
If you say something nice to somebody, they get creeped out, So you have to be very careful कि अब मैं किस तरह से इसको convey करूँ that I like you. Not just a woman, like anyone in general. So if you become too chummy with somebody, like even a friend, they get like taken aback a little, and like easy ho jaya, too many emotions. And I feel that this generation has been trained into becoming like this, don't feel too much, be a little disconnected from emotions, where मैं तो बहुत ही emotional आदमी हूँ, मैं तो I'm all emotions. तो मैं थोड़ा सा.
What do you think, like, is behind that? Like, have you,
now you're talking.
Yeah, like, it's
a lot of things, man. I mean, Hollywood, just desensitizing human beings to a point where you don't feel anything for anything. Even, I mean, look at what's happening now. A lot of people who are so desensitized, they don't even know how to feel bad for something like that. And even if you do, you're so helpless because you don't know what to do with those emotions, because you never dealt with them. You were so held up in kind of becoming this bad boy or bad girl who's like on your own, I don't need anyone. I don't need to rely on anybody emotionally. And I think that can be a little suicidal sometimes, because then you're left alone and you have no idea how to convey your emotions. And ये मेरे साथ भी हुआ है. I'm sure तुम्हारे साथ भी हुआ होगा. Especially when you go into like serious relationships, वो भी मेरे साथ हुआ है. And had to find that gray area, that Goldilocks zone, where I don't become so distant from, human beings कि मुझे बिल्कुल ही alienate हो जाऊं. But at the same time not scaring everyone around me कि, what drug are you on, bro? Easy हो जाओ. So वो बहुत मुश्किल था, वो मैंने balance किया. Just to like know how to handle your emotions. ये भी एक journey थी. But generally answering again to your question कि desensitize होने का reason ही यही है कि हमारा जो जो पॉप कल्चर है, जो
पूरा माशरा है,
पूरा माशरा अब तो खैर it's a virus.
Yeah.
There's no check on content. So it's gonna happen. I mean,
and you know, the algorithm seems to just keep pushing the stuff that is the most debased and the most like desensitizing.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way, you know, it's like the devil literally. Like if गलती से भी मैंने एक गलत पोस्ट पे लाइक कर दिया तो उसके 6 और पोस्ट सामने आ जाए. So it pulls you in.
Yeah.
It's like a spider web.
Yeah.
It tells you, Aja, you know, you want this? I got more, you know.
Yeah, that's the Dajjal system.
The Dajjal. I wanted to say the Dajjal. Yeah. I wanted to say, but I used another word for it. Web. I mean, what is a web? I mean, it is that.
Yeah.
So वो है reason.
And I mean, there's no coincidence that's called the World Wide Web, you know.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many things that in your face, but you just never see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, conspiracy theorists like maybe you and me would happily, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, if
it's conspiracy reality, to be honest.
I think it's being the advocate of truth is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I feel that banda sach bolna cha raha hai, and he has some facts, maybe not entirely correct, but he has a bunch of information that makes sense. But because you don't want to believe it, sometimes I think वो conspiracy theory बन जाती है.
Well, it's also just more about, you know, like आजकल, for example, जो हो रहा है फ़लस्तीन में. And for a lot of people, especially younger people, maybe people in their 20s, etc., it's like a bit mind-boggling. Okay, how can this continue to happen? Like, how is it blatantly happening?
Yeah.
And then, you know, to which those of us who are a little older, our reaction is like, but couldn't you see this is what's always been happening?
Yeah,
you know, this is just now in your face, so you're freaking out.
Yeah.
But we're not freaking out.
We've seen it all. We've seen like 3 wars. More than 3 wars, maybe, at least you and I.
Yeah.
And we saw it from a different point of view because they were babies. They didn't know कि वो हो क्या रहा है.
Yeah, and the idea that, you know, the West is some bastion of morality and rightness and righteousness and all of that, that's collapsing in front of people. Like, you know, when our generation, people really bought into it. They really tried to go abroad for universities and to get jobs there. And now people are even dying for it still, but it's breaking.
I know.
To some point, it still offered you that life.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, but they're racist. They don't actually think we're on the same level. You know?
Yeah, this happened to me a bunch of times as well, where I felt that I'm not being treated equally a bunch of times, even in my own field. But I'm going to start from where you said the Gen Z and the new generation, jo hai, at least they're I feel honestly कि मुझे नज़र आ रहा है कि उनकी एज ज़्यादा अवेयर है, ज़्यादा kind of into calling everyone out.
Yes.
Because if you see the stats, it's the younger lot that's actually standing up against, you know, this whole abomination. So at least I give them that credit कि at least they have the energy to invest into it, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm thinking कि मेरा electricity का bill अगला मैंने कैसे pay करना है. You know?
Yeah. They don't have those responsibilities.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they have this gap where they have the free time. Well, I mean, I'm sure they're doing other things. I'm not saying कि वो खारिक बैठे हैं.
Yeah.
But they're not as responsible as you and I maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so they have that time to get out there and do something about it.
Bilkul.
Whereas I would want to because मेरा दिल टूट रहा है.
Yeah.
But how the hell will I, you know, how the hell will I do other things that kind of really rely on me?
Yeah.
And that is...
We're deep in the trap, so to speak. Now we're like well into it. So, you know, but I think at the same time, it's like every generation has a purpose. Like, you know, you can see हमारे parents and हमारे parents के parents की generation, they were about just, okay, नया मुल्क बना है. I'm talking specifically for Pakistanis here. Like, नया मुल्क बना है तो उसमें अपनी जगह ढूंढनी है, उसमें कुछ like रोजी रोटी कमानी है, उसमें कुछ businesses establish करनी है, उसमें कुछ, you know, whatever घर बनाने हैं. And those that were able to provide that kind of safety net, then unke phir bacche have the luxury to think, okay, actually what is actually going on? Like what rather than what do we have to do to make money, it's like what should we do? You know, so that's like, at least speaking for myself, have been afforded that luxury.
Even me, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
But then again, now it's like, it's only like it's like a ticking time bomb, right? Like you can be talking about all this stuff and be rebelling against the system for so long until either you manage to successfully create something that's anti-establishment and is doing well, which is very difficult, or you slowly start becoming part of the system because of
I can't even like come up with a name in my head who's not a part of the system.
Yeah,
I cannot.
And if there are people, you probably won't know about them because they're off the grid and they're doing their own thing.
You know? I'm sure there are, but they're outcasts. And maybe for their own well-being, maybe it's good for them to be outcasts because they figured out how to survive without being inside the system.
Yeah.
But so much of the stuff that we rely on is a part of the system. I've been very interesting conversation here with you right before this started. We should actually talk about that.
Yeah.
Boycotting.
I was going to come to that.
Yeah, boycotting, how it affects Pakistan, how it affects the jobs in Pakistan, how it affects... Because Pakistan relies on import, right? We don't manufacture as much as we should be.
Yeah.
And if, for example, I'm not pro-Israel or anything like that. I'm just being the devil's advocate for Pakistan. If I stop having... I have the luxury to eat kebabjis or any other brand. Yeah. But if I stop having KFC just to rebel again and boycott for the reason of boycotting...
the people working there will suffer.
Yeah,
whatever.
Generally just that the people who are involved, at least they're not Zionists or people who are the part of the establishment. कि उनको हम directly एक chips का packet जो है वो उससे कोई फर्क उनको नहीं पड़ेगा जितना oil और gas से उनको फर्क पड़ेगा, which brings me to Saudi and Turkey. They should be boycotting because they are bigger stakeholders in having the ability of destabilizing Israel's narrative. Because they give them oil, they give them gas.
But the Israelis are, or Zionists, I should say, are like several steps ahead of the game. Now they've got those countries by the balls, so to speak. So
they've got everyone
they can't like.
This is why they flaunt, because they know this one very strong. I'm not like validating anything right now, but I'm just again being the devil's advocate by saying that you think that you can very easily kind of destabilize something that is so deep rooted in the planet. There must be a different approach.
Well, I appreciate you making the devil's advocate kind of point, but on the flip side, the boycotts are affecting them, and they're shitting bricks about it. Companies, आज ही मैंने share किया था, McDonald's is putting out a corporate level statement that, we are pro-humanity, whatever. Like, obviously they have to say that.
No, you should hear the Davos ka naya tagline. I think it's something around the lines of regaining trust.
Yeah,
that's
good luck.
blatantly flashing in your face.
Yeah.
So they know that we don't trust them.
Yeah. So the point is that I would make the opposite point that like we in our individual capacities can do a lot more than we have been led to believe. The system wants you to believe you're insignificant, wants you to think that aap kuch nahi kar sakte, kuch bhi kar lo. And that's why they're trying to flaunt everything in your face and desensitize you, etc.
And threaten you basically with cancel culture.
Yeah, but like if that were true, then why do they make it a point to shadow ban and censor any single person's single post.
Yeah.
You know, एक उनको post उनको इतना जहर लगता है कि इसका potential इतना है कि ये millions share कर लें, ये fire spread हो जाएगा.
Yeah.
So that kind of proves the opposite point as well, you know.
Yeah. There was I was just referring to Pakistan honestly.
Yeah.
Over all over the world, it is working. The boycott is working. Of course it is. From Puma to fucking McDonald's, you know, it is.
Yeah.
But Pakistan का boycott जो है ना वो है तो बहुत अच्छा होना चाहिए मेरे ख्याल से होना चाहिए हमें बोलना चाहिए. We don't say anything. I don't even see Pakistani politicians saying anything. I mean, lip service तो है, of course, everyone says कि हाँ ये गलत हो रहा है, but what are you doing about it? You're not doing anything about it.
Well, it's a grand exposure, right, of where people actually lie.
Exactly. It is, and you also get exposed by just saying something and not acting on it.
Yeah.
Because people aren't dumb. People aren't. Times have changed. You know, people are educated. And there is one good thing about social media कि एक truck driver भी जो है वो थोड़ा सा educate हो गया.
बिल्कुल.
In order to think how other people are thinking. Because if you're so isolated in this country and you have been for so many years and you never knew how other people actually think. And now you know because you're so connected. You've got VPNs, you've got social media. You can just easily connect to another country's algorithm and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that kind of educated them into now seeing कि बेहतर क्या हो सकता है. And they know कि अगर कोई झूठ बोल रहा है तो वो नजर आ रहा है. You know, समझ आ रहा है कि इसके पीछे कोई है. I mean, it might be a very small percentage, but most people what they see is what they get. वाली चीज कि they believe everything that they see on the news, on just TV, television, mainstream media. You know. But
वो भी like because I guess one good thing about what Musharraf did. Opening so many like channels, you know, and every like there's a news channel for every ethnicity representing their narrative, and so एक news 10 different तरीकों से आ रही है. So you know, so people that's also in front of people as opposed to the PTV time where it was one narrative and CNN BBC narrative और वो बस पूरी ऊपर से नीचे तक एक ही चीज थी. But now there's like okay, what's actually true? Like people are lost.
Yeah,
you know.
And speaking of Musharraf, a lot of people hate on him, but he did some good for this country. I had a stable job while he was in power. Radio stations, you know, TV stations, all of them created so many jobs, man.
Yeah.
So I thank him for that. There are a lot of other things that he probably did wrong. I don't side. I'm not like pro anyone. I just say कि यार true is true, false is false, right is right, wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
जिसने कहा मैंने भी 10,000 गलतियाँ की हैं, and I'm sorry for that. But ये कि when I do something right, I make it a point कि भाई मैं गलत नहीं कह रहा हूँ. This can't be. So jobs created. उसके बाद तो खैर there was just now downhill. Hardly.
Yeah,
anything.
but I mean, I guess फिर political हो गया तो थोड़ी like मुशर्रफ की भी बात हो रही है. So I mean the thing is when 9/11 happened and the response like supporting this America's war. I mean, you can again be the devil's advocate and say if we hadn't, they would have bombed us too. But but supporting them ensured that we were bombed anyway. So like you know,
I mean, destabilizing countries is just a hobby for America.
Yeah.
I feel I mean, I love the American people. I think they've created so much art. So they've created good life for people here.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, the problem is not with the people anywhere.
Yeah,
it's not. The control systems.
It's just the deep state and the real people who control the narrative are the people who kind of... So everything, I think nothing can happen with the right channel. So, I mean, कुछ चीज़ें हो जाती हैं सही तरीके से अगर चैनल से करो. But ज़्यादातर जो पावर में होते हैं और जो प्रोपेगेंडा क्रिएट कर रहे होते हैं और जो बाय फोर्स नैरेटिव को अपनी तरफ लेकर आते हैं, दैट इज द ओनली थिंग दैट हैज वर्कड इन द पास्ट. for example, America's power to destabilize other, mostly Middle Eastern countries, but generally the whole world.
Yeah.
Because it's one by one destabilized every country on the planet, almost.
Yeah.
And that kind of pisses me off, because what's threatening you? I mean, what could it be?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with a whole list of threats, but
well, it's just the simple concept and the jo bunyad hai of having an empire, right? To be the unquestionable hegemon of the world. For that to remain true, you need to keep destabilizing the world. Otherwise,
and how else
they
are you
will
gonna
find their power, and your power will erode. You know.
Yeah, and how else would you justify your colonization? Because from the British to Israel to America, none of them had their. I mean, I'm sure British ka to alag scene tha, but they were all colonized.
Yeah.
All these places were colonized. So America can say कि okay, किस मुंह से मैं इस्राइल को बोलूं कि colonize नहीं करो, किस मुंह से? मैं खुद कर रहा हूँ ये, मैं खुद किया है. The indigenous people who lived in America before Americans made it America.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that and just
I mean, and
you're asking the devil to stop the devil.
And why not? You go deeper into it, and then it's
I mean, if you're,
it's like the British who became the American Empire, who are now becoming, or it's being revealed that it's actually the Zionist Empire.
Yeah, of course,
and it always was.
Of course,
you know.
Yeah, and I now if we're talking about politics, might as well talk about religion because. A lot of people just, especially in the Muslim world, not Pakistan, just Pakistan to hai, uska bahut bada part hai. We have a lot of racism here. But generally just saying that we're the heroes of the world, we're going to save the planet. We're the ones who are going to enforce the prophecy on your kind.
Yeah.
Just that sentence pisses me off a lot. And I'm very honest about it. I have a lot of family members who are religious, and I have countless debates with them. Lad hote hain, gusse mein aa jate hain, and then I have to like stop talking because I can't get through. I can't really explain कि मैं कहना क्या चाह रहा हूँ, because willingness of listening and understanding is just out the door the minute I start talking. The minute I mention any other religion. सिर्फ Muslims भरे नहीं हैं, evangelical भी हैं, all the extremists. There are extremism everywhere. So, and just like the Zionist religion, that I think it's a religion. They not the Jewish religion, but their own.
Zionism is Satanism.
Everybody has an explanation, meaning for it. कि वो है क्या? मेरे लिए वो एक अलग ही फिरका है, एक अलग faction है of a distorted version of Judaism. I think Judaism is a beautiful religion. I've read the Torah. I've read the Bible, Old Testament. तो मुझे बहुत मुश्किल से मिलते हैं कुछ, but generally मैंने अपने आप को educate किया, just putting an effort into learning it other than my own religion. I've gone into the Quran as well. तो मेरी debate यही होती है कि this is a saga. When you read it like a book, it's a saga. And you can't say कि ये वाला part जो था, it has nothing to do with the previous parts that came before it.
It's a whole.
It's a sequence of events and occasions that formed and molded the planet into a certain, like whatever it is now. But you can't disregard the Torah. You can't disregard Jews and say that they're gonna burn in hell. I am not gonna say that. I mean, you can chop off my head or anything like that, but
no. But again, I think the Quran maybe जो ये बात होती है. You see the same parallel in modern day, right? When people, Israel is doing whatever genocide, and then people make the mistake of putting all the Jews in the same basket and condemning all the Jews. So,
people here do that, and I'm like, wait a second.
Where's the Quran?
Stop saying the Jews. Stop saying that.
Quran itself has stories where certain Jews converted when they saw the veracity of the message and the behavior of the prophet, because it's a sequence of prophets who are carrying the same, basically the old Christians जिनको लगा कि ये वही मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम है जिसकी बात बाइबल में हुई भी है, तो उन्होंने रिकग्नाइज किया, तो फिर वो मुसलमान हो गए.
तीसरा की हुई है. I mean, दूर क्यों जा रहे हैं हम लोग?
Exactly.
We believe in the same prophets. We believe in the same. Okay, now every religion. I mean, I'm not sure about like all the ones that I haven't looked into, but the ones that I have, the major ones, that are interconnected, they all say the same goddamn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
उसके अलावा बहुत टेक्निकल चीजें जिन पे हम लड़ रहे हैं एक्चुअली, बट वी एक्चुअली डू नॉट. हुकूकुल इबाद तो है,
others as you want to be treated, you know.
So हुकूकुल इबाद is the main thing in our religion, I think. बाद में नमाजें और दूसरी चीजें आती हैं. If you're not a good human being, अगर आप कुत्ते को पत्थर मार रहे हैं और उसको टॉर्चर कर रहे हैं और किसी का दिल दुखा रहे हैं, चोरी कर रहे हैं, you know, झूठ बोल रहे हैं, these are basic, very basic things for every religion out there.
Yeah.
Every religion. And वो ही नहीं होता. सही है, वो ही नहीं होता. But we get into the technical, the organized religion. We get into the organized religion, which is the thing about अपनी मस्जिदें, छोटी मस्जिदें, churches, you know, places of worship बनाना, उनकी politicization, and you know, it's a different
being lost in details rather than saying.
Getting lost in details, exactly. Thank you for saying that. So and forgetting about what's important. Forgetting about the very basic thing that God told you to do is don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Be a good
but
person.
Coming back to the point I was making, I believe that the Zionist versus Jew idea is very much explained in the Quran itself, but people don't. क्योंकि वही मुल्ला culture is कि सब यहूदी बुरे हैं, you know, whatever. But anyway, coming back to the role of us, like people like us, and you know, a lot of people who are listening are artists. Like, given all that's happening, we've had, you know, this entire period of the last 20-30 years where brands like Coke and Pepsi and Nestle have come in and done a lot of investment in Pakistani you know,
music
specifically. और मतलब मैं तो यही बात करता हूँ ना कि अब आपको समझ आ रही है कि उन्होंने क्यों किया था. कि एक टाइम आएगा जब आपकी रोजी रोटी उनसे मिली होगी और जब टाइम बात करने का होगा आप सब चुप बैठे होंगे, और यही हो रहा है. You know?
I can't say anything. I mean, I cannot disagree with that, of course. But मैं यही कहूँगा कि coexisting is very important. Coexisting is the one thing that will save the planet from like annihilation. But वो बहुत मुश्किल है. बहुत मुश्किल है.
No, but like as human beings, first of all, and as artists, I think वही बात है, like there needs to be some courage and some you know, or some integrity now, especially you know, in the kind of role models. There are no role models, you know. They literally, the kids these days have no role models. There are actually, like, there's Roger Waters. मुसलमान भी नहीं है, but वो जितना फलस्तीन के बारे में करता है.
And this is one thing that I actually have, like we have these interesting debates in my family, and we always end up saying the one, just पे agree हम actually कर लेते हैं, which is a lot of non-Muslims are doing what Muslims are supposed to be doing.
100%.
And that is baffling. That is true.
And it should be a source of shame for the Muslim community.
It's a slap on our face. But music की तरफ मेरे ख्याल से आते हैं, because and filmmaking, because I generally, when like taking the conversation again from learning how to tell the story and being able to, you know, execute that. So I felt कि क्या मैं ऐसा कर सकता हूँ जिससे वो एक umbrella के नीचे जो सारी skill set है वो showcase हो जाए. So I started investing in a little short film. It's based on my third album, Playroom. And it started from 3 minutes. then it went up to 15 minutes, and now it's a full-fledged feature film. तो वो एक बहुत अच्छी चीज़ है जिस पे I've been missing for more than a year now. My last social media interaction probably November 22 में था. Almost more than a year.
Yeah.
And the only reason is that I was just caught up in, and I still am.
Yeah.
The corporate stuff which I'm doing, and on the side my film, which is something that I'm really relying on.
What stage has it reached now?
So it's done like half, 40 minutes ho chuke, and I'm aiming for 80 minutes at least. So it's like at least a feature. A lot of my own tax-paid money went into it. No producer. Or mere lag gaye achhe khase. But it's looking. I mean, I don't regret it. At least when I look at it, I lost a lot of money. I mean, I wouldn't say I lost it. I invested it, and I don't regret it. शुरू में लग रहा था कि मैंने गलती कर दी है, but now when उसकी शक्ल develop हो गई है काफ़ी, and now I can see कि first of all it's not even for Pakistan because it's like sci-fi horror thriller and very psychological. It's in English.
And you wrote the script and everything?
I wrote the script. I did 80% of the work, but I had a beautiful team that I discovered during this journey. So a lot of technical people who do a lot of 3D work, a lot of people who do some shading, texturing, modeling, and cinematography. A team basically that helped me make this possible. Well, not on my own, it would have been impossible, of course. And the people who were involved were really like, they treated it like their own, showreel. Yeah. It's a very expensive Faraz Haider showreel.
So abhi, what are you anticipating as kitna aur time lagega isme?
So everyone keeps asking me in the team, and all the actors, they're like, ab bas bahut ho gaya. But when when I technically explain it to them, maybe you'll understand it. When you have a film shot on a Red Dragon with Leica lenses, and it's shot on 6K, and it's being edited, every frame is being edited manually. It's like manual labor. It's not some magic button. It's not just grading. It's not just editing. It's compositing, VFX, CGI. Every trick in the book is being applied into the creation, in the post-production process. तो वो समझते नहीं, and they're getting like, and मैं दिखा भी नहीं सकता उनको अभी. I show them a little bit and थोड़ा सा तरसाता उनको, फिर दिखा देता हूँ. But now they kind of understand what my vision really is, to kind of try and hope to set a benchmark for the film industry. At least Pakistan में release नहीं हुई, तो at least Pakistan में produce तो हुई है. At least I will be able to proudly say that. But वो release इसलिए भी नहीं हो सकती. There's tons of stuff that I don't think the screens are going to be able to show.
Censor will not.
Yeah, there's alcohol abuse, there's suicide, there's nudity. So yeah, I don't think Pakistani cinema is going to be able to.
Have you thought of how you're going to approach when it gets to that point?
Yeah, when it's baked, I will definitely then get into, because I just don't want to go with a script to a producer and say, okay, put money into the next spell of my film. So I wanted to make something that they could see and say, okay, this is perfect. कितने से और चाहिए? इतने से डाल देता हूँ, बना लो, खत्म कर लो इसको. Because I'm the stakeholder. I'm the major stakeholder myself. So I can at least say, yaar, I did almost everything. You just have to do a little bit. So that is my approach, and that's the only way you can now, because
people don't take risks anymore.
And I'm not
in products like this.
I'm not actor. I'm not a professional actor to जो कि सिर्फ acting करता है. So I do a bunch of things, which is acting is a big part of it. But to be able to demand that kind of exposure, you need to at least showcase or sweep the, people off their feet, take the rug out of the underneath their feet. This is what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
So, wo at least a locked hota hai, at least your pitch is gonna at least have 80% chance of getting some kind of investment. That I learned from the corporate world.
कुछ चीजें उधर से सीखने में आती हैं.
So that is a good thing to have in my life, because I can learn how to balance art with actually being able to see art as a product. Because every art, I think, is a product. I mean, painting की भी auction तो होती है ना.
Yeah.
So I started looking at art. I mean, a lot of people will disagree with that. A lot of people will say, how dare you say that? But मैं उसको at least इस तरह देखता हूँ कि उसको deliver जब करो तो वो एक well received हो जाए. That's all I want. I don't want it to have like $1 million worth or anything like that. I just want it to be well received.
Yeah.
And that automatically makes it into a product. Because it's meant for the audience. I make something, I shelf it. It's for myself. I can tell people to fuck off. I only did this for myself. But if I'm putting it out there, it's for other people. So it becomes a product.
Yeah.
That's what I believe in, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of looking at things.
It is.
And I mean,
there's nothing wrong with calling something a product. If it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's a product that you yourself are the only arbiter of what it should be, right?
Yeah.
But I think the problem comes when it's a product and you are being, maybe you had some vision and because out of necessity you brought some people in with money and then they get to define.
And then there's a McDonald's ka ad 15 minutes ki McDonald's placements in your film.
Like it's like Zack Snyder. Na har film uski aati hai, like उन्होंने मुझसे ये कराया था, मेरा कट तो ये उसका वेट
कर. Oh right, yeah. So this is why I was thinking, like my team used to say, there's so many brands we can pitch to, we can show them the film, and I'm like, but then what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
You know where that's going to start.
The product placement will come in and cut the scenes out.
Of course. That and just there's no room for product placement in my film anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's not meant for a commercial audience. Not for Pakistan, definitely, but definitely commercial audience around the world for sure. Because it's different. People have flavors have evolved. People have the appetite now to like consume different art, different kind of film storytelling, and
it's got stale for them in like super mature Western. Like Hollywood and all, it's like you're getting the same film 100 times over every year.
Reboots.
Other than like a couple of directors that make interesting stuff.
Tarantino ka mujhe ye bahut acha lagta tha. I mean, like he's not my mentor or anything like that. I have other mentors, but I really respect him as a filmmaker, and I really love what he said. I make films for myself, and everyone else is invited. Everyone's welcome to watch.
Yeah.
Maine apne liye banaya. So I love that about him, and it worked.
Yeah. It worked. It definitely worked.
And he had zero education in filmmaking. He learned from the film, the store that he used to work in, where he had access to all the films, and he just put them in the VCR and kind of trained himself into becoming a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
So wo bahut and I'm a high school dropout, honestly. Like main jahil hu. But while my class fellows were in their unis.
But Jahil in the West in
the traditional sense.
Yeah. The what you call the mainstream accepted.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure when people look at this interview, they won't say कि Faraz Jahil hai. बोलना भी नहीं आता उसको. But I'm sure like it goes without saying कि like while my friends in school and high school went to college and university, they were studying.
Yeah.
But I was learning.
Yeah. By doing things.
Yeah. And know so much more and more than anybody else in my batch. I mean, and I love them. I mean, they're all specifically masters of their own fields. But there's a bunch of things that I can do, and I have people who validate that. Yeah. It's not just that I have this inflated ego saying कि मैं तो बस बहुत ही आला हूँ, but there's I got validation from my clients, from people who I worked with, and it's just a good indication to have to not become a narcissist, and at the same time not self-doubting yourself, being self-critical to a point where you can say, okay, this is good enough, and be very critical, but don't doubt yourself as an artist. So बहुत मुश्किल भी होता है.
Well, I mean, one thing you said about, like, early in this conversation, you talked about feeling that imposter syndrome of being a jack of all trades. And then you just mentioned, like, people who go to college and then specialize and do masters or maybe a PhD, and they become very specified to a very narrow thing. Whereas, Iqbal, who was one of my greatest inspirations, he was a polymath. He knew so much about so much, right? And he could write cutting across the reality of the entire world, and the entire history of the world. So I think the modern education system is very deliberately...
Don't even get me started on the education system.
Narrow your mind so much that when you become basically uske baad aapne purza banna hai system ke liye.
Cog in the wheel.
Yeah. And your focus is so narrow that you can't even see that you're just a cog in their wheel, right? And you're not even going to share a profits. You're just going to get some pittance for what you're doing. So
yeah, bro. And like, you're triggering me now. Like, education system, I have a huge problem with it. The only thing that school is good for is making friends and 100%. Socializing and falling in love, maybe. But you don't learn shit in school. I didn't learn anything in school, even though, like,
I had to unlearn.
I had to unlearn. Exactly. Yeah, I had to unlearn a lot of things. And then re-educate myself. With experience, with actual interaction in the field with people of my field.
Absolutely.
तो वो मेरे ख्याल से है, I mean, वो भेड़ वाला सीन के आप सबको एक ही जगह बिठा के उनको एक ही चीज सिखा रहे हैं. Of course, you look at that and you see a classroom now. You used to be a part of that that fraternity, and you used to sit on that bench and you were being told what to do. But take that chair out, ये सारी chairs अलग अलग करो, उनको isolate करो, उनसे पूछो हर बच्चे से कि तुम क्या करना चाहते हो. मैं तुम्हें वो सिखाऊंगा. My interest क्या है, तो मैं उसके अंदर मैं मास्टर बना दूंगा. ये तो नहीं होता यहाँ.
कहीं नहीं होता.
I mean, यहाँ का तो छोड़ दो, कहीं नहीं होता. And that's what I learned from my experience as a high school dropout who learned everything on his own. I felt कि अच्छा हुआ. I'm not encouraging you to drop out of college or something like that. पढ़ो लिखो हर चीज़ करो, socialize, make friends, but always know that whatever you're being taught you'll have to eventually unlearn it, like you said, and re-educate yourself according to how actually things happen in the field. Physically क्या हो रहा है? You learn that when you become an intern. You learn that when you climb the ladder.
Absolutely. We were just talking a little bit off camera about a couple of things. First, let's talk about. You mentioned, being good at sequencing drums and that being a curse. I mean,
it's a curse.
Like, why do you say that?
Because जैसे अभी हम बात करते हैं handle it in post वाला element जो मुझे, which is also a curse because Faraz कर लेगा handle it in post. यहाँ shoot पे करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. I'm like, no. I try my best to do it on location, but they know that हो जाएगा. So similarly, when you come into music, there is so much thanks to technology, there's that now the ability to come up with realistic sound design. Not samples, not loops, but sounds, triggers and various things, technical stuff that you can use to make your production sound come to life. But not, like I said, not to discredit the live recordings or anything like that. I'm a huge fan of that. I've recorded live drums, live equipment, live instruments. But it's convenient.
Yeah, I mean, convenience is the name of the game these days.
And it saves you time and money. And right now, in the age of content creation, if you stick too long into like, just I'm a fiddler. I mean, I wish more people were like that.
Yeah.
Because now it's just like bhed ko factory hai, content ki nikalo.
Yeah, एक preset ढूंढना है that works, fucking just go with it.
I have this huge problem with this whole preset wala scene.
Exactly.
I mean, at least if you're sequencing, then design your sound.
Yeah.
Work on it, change it more, make it different.
Yeah.
वो भी नहीं करते. Apple loops की आवाज़ें आ रही होती हैं जो मैंने
10,000
ऐसे सुन लिए होते हैं. I'm like, okay, अच्छा था, हाँ ठीक है. But वो गाने में यूज़ किया है. मैं तो उसको as a reference यूज़ कर रहा होता हूँ.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard a lot of Pakistani songs जिसके अंदर Apple loops सुनाई दे रहे हैं मुझे.
Yeah.
And it's disgraceful.
Yeah.
Shameful.
I mean, the point I was going to make is it's all great, and it's these are amazing tools that we're blessed with in this day and age. But at the same time, you know, there's this again, it's like the system and all the technology seems to be feeding this and reinforcing the idea that you can do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't need anyone else, right? Just take this software, get this preset, blah, blah,
User-friendly interfaces.
You don't need a recording engineer, you have a plugin which has everything. But the point is, when you actually go out of your shell and work with someone who is like, okay, you've sequenced amazing drums.
That's a good point.
You know, it's exactly what you envisioned it. But then you have a real drummer play it, and he plays something that you're like, wow, I couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond your vision.
Of course, it's another human being, another brain,
Yeah.
bringing his element into your art.
Yeah.
So there's no denying that live instrumentation is replaceable. Like this you can't replace it. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? It'll always be, it'll always have its own value. But like you said, and like I said, content creation itni rapidly ho rahi hai कि I think it's just the system, like a system telling you there's no more time.
Oh yeah, to keep up with this, you have to just you go with this.
Your algorithm's gonna drop.
Yeah.
So in order to put out a video or a music video or a song or any kind of content, blog ho gaya, whatever, you need to jaldi kar bhai, time nahi hai.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you mentioned the same thing when it comes to film, like, you know, doing things in post versus doing things in camera. I mean, I was speaking about the example where when we were shooting Desert Journey for the DA Method, you know, Kamal, brilliant filmmaker and my friend as well, like he was directing it, and he had asked me, because I was coming from abroad, to bring these squibs, because for those who don't know, it's like for gunshot effects and all, there these practical effect kits which explode and, you know, give that fake blood and on a trigger, so you can like trigger them remotely. So we thought we'll use that in our short film to make it as real as possible, right? But then come the shoot, we realized that we don't have a second pair of costumes for the actors, so if we do this, that will be the last take, and it has to be the take.
Yep.
So we chickened out and we're like, let's do it in post, which resulted in like taking 9 months and extra budget or whatever to get there. But you know,
did you get the result that you wanted?
I mean, in the end, because 9 months इसीलिए लगे because I was being a stickler for, you know, this still not convincing enough, etc.
That's good.
I think I was the holdout. Like everyone else had approved different versions that came before that, but like I just wanted to push it as far as it could go, and in the end I was happy with it. But
in the end you were happy because you were so tight with it. You were like, no. And yahi ek cheez hai, I think another thing that I learned through corporate media, I guess, not a bad thing, it worked for me, ke don't fall in love with your creation. Be self-critical, be so critical that 6 लोग बाद में 10 साल बाद भी देखें तो वो कहेंगे अच्छा यार सही है, ठीक था, you know. So and I learned by being rejected multiple times, like 1 billion times by my client. Yeah. Like यार ये check करें बहुत अच्छा किया. You think? I mean, ये गलत है, and they do it so brutally. They do it. They don't give a shit about how you're gonna feel. So, and then that kind of became a practice for me to inflict pain upon my own.
And the other thing is to be able to have that feedback and respond to it and still deliver something that everyone approves in a certain time scale.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Working to a deadline. Which
yeah.
doesn't happen with your own work often.
Yeah. I mean, you can delay your own work, but you can't delay a corporate project. And आज ही, अभी 2 चीजें मैं करके निकला हूँ, and we actually got delayed because of my problems and your problems, and just thank God तुम्हें भी देर लग गई वरना मैं बुरा लगता. So वो करके मैं निकला हूँ, and I'm still thinking कि अभी वो silent किया है, मुझे पता है आ रहे messages. But it's good practice. Rejection is good.
Bilkul.
And that makes you learn a lot of things, how to be self-critical, not self-doubt, but self-critical, and how to creatively, like constructively, criticize your work, your own work, which is very difficult because we tend to fall in love with our own creation. और वो शुरू में तो मैंने 20 साल तो वही किया है.
And it can easily go the other way. Like, some people just have such a high expectation and standard for themselves, which they never basically end up being happy with anything. And they never release anything.
दोस्त भी हैं, बहुत सारे मेरे ऐसे दोस्त हैं, बहुत सारे musicians हैं who I know are very difficult to work with.
Yeah.
Because वही वाली बात है कि nothing makes them happy. It's good, but it can also be suicidal sometimes as an artist, because you need to finalize something. Then you're not accomplishing anything. Then you just end up in becoming trapped in that cycle of self-doubt.
Exactly.
It's not constructive criticism anymore.
And you only, I think, really evolve by putting things out there and then realizing a year later, if that's something I've already said, I want to say something else.
Yeah.
And B, how you've said that, the tools you've used, अच्छा वो भी मैंने कर लिया है, उस चीज़ को मैं अब बेहतर कर सकता हूँ, या I'll change up the tools, I'll use a different guitar, or I'll play in a different style.
Or how are you going to do something new if you don't fail?
Exactly.
I probably sound like one of those coaches.
Yeah.
But that is true.
Yeah.
It is true. You have to fail at least once to do better. Or usi ki wajah se, like rejection, failure, that's what kind of made me better. All cliche stuff. All cliche. But कुछ और बोल दो यार जो cliche नहीं. But it's true, it worked, and I back it up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your film that's in production. You were mentioning that it gets into some of the things we were just talking about, like AI, and the fact that going forward, I mean, so many films are being made in Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
And the lines between games and films are blurring, and often...
I'm glad they are.
Yeah, and often nowadays you see games with much more compelling and well-constructed narratives.
Absolutely.
Whereas films are cliches now.
Yeah. So much detail. For example, Kratos, God of War, Ragnarok, जो भी आई थी. Ragnarok से पहले भी God of War 4 आई थी. I don't know if... I'm a huge geek, gaming freak, but Metal Gear
The last
Solid.
one that I saw was 3. So
Okay, 3 was amazing.
Yeah.
They all were, but at least जो बाद में आए, I think a decade or maybe even later, there's so much detail, just like the Blades of Chaos that he had in the first 3. There was so much past and so much detail in just that tool that he was carrying with him. कि Blades of Chaos की भी कहानी है कि वो कहाँ यूज हुआ था, क्यों यूज हुआ था, why was he chained to it. ये detailed narrative नहीं मिलेगा फिल्म के अंदर. And this is why people should stop making movies about games, because you can't. 12 घंटे का experience, maybe even more. How can you feed that into a 1 hour or 2 घंटे की movie?
I mean, it's what did you think of The Last of Us, like TV series?
It began really well. Like it started off really well, but I kind of didn't, because I played the game. I saw the game as well, and obviously, like, I know the fans love it and everything, but there's certain things that I don't think they weren't in the game. Second Last of Us, हो गया था कुछ जो I'm not a big fan of. But the first one was, I mean, amazing. लेकिन मुझे वही लग रहा है ना कि how much can you do to recreate that experience? And end of the day, they're going to be watching it. They're not going to be playing it, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be inside it. So, and now, if you watch a gameplay, for example, मेरे पास टाइम नहीं होता अब तो मैं गेम प्लेस लगा के बैठ जाता हूँ. I was just talking about this कि इतनी detailed storytelling है and you actually enjoy it more than you enjoy a film. Maybe because I'm a geek, I get it because I grew up playing games, video games and everything. But वो मेरे लिए वो एक different ही appetite है for storytelling और वो what it has to offer is so much bigger, so much it's too grand to be translated into 2-hour film or an experience.
Well, I think a lot of it surely also has to do with the game maker is focused on using the individual and their consciousness and their ability to make choices as the driver of the narrative. Right? And that it's forcing you into a narrative through those choices. And some games have multiple narratives.
And multiple endings, multiple outcomes, and that is the future. You saw Bandersnatch. So that's a good example. I mean, it's not a game, but it was very similar to a game where you could choose your narrative and have an impact on the ending according to what you want. तो वो एक interactive experience, cinema experience था जो फिर बाद में किसी ने नहीं किया. But at least he tried, and he's one of my mentors. So I'm a huge fan of Sam Ismail, Mr. Robot. You know, abhi Leaving the World Behind. I don't know if you've seen that.
I saw that.
So
full of symbolism.
But the cinematography, storytelling, the deep narrative, the hidden stuff. That's kind of my
the camera movements. Very game-like actually.
Cinematography, though, the whole team. Amazing. So, मेरे को जिस तरह के abstract, dark inspirations हैं. I'm a huge fan of Hideo Kojima. You know,
of course, man. Metal Gear.
He's the man. You know,
like
he is the man.
The goat.
He's the OG. He in Metal Gear 2 said, "वो कितना पुराना गया है? 2004 में आया था."
It's like PS1 or 2 पे था.
Yes, so the nanotechnologies and all of the system, the AI and all the GW and all of that, you know, मैं तो पी गया था Metal Gear. Like I'm an encyclopedia. I even know the plot holes. And I'm not gonna like get into it because it kind of like disrespects one of my mentors. But I've seen it so much. So again and again कि मुझे वो भी पता है लेकिन वो जो हुआ था contradict हो रहा है. So but then again, what a franchise. I mean, it educated me and opened my eyes. Towards what reality truly is and how, systemization of war and proxy war and amazing game. If you haven't still played it, at least watch it on YouTube.
It's incredible. I played 1 and 2 and then I saw my brother play 3 and 4 and 5.
4 Guns of the Pages was too good. But the first 3 were amazing. There were some bad eggs, but like main jo tha na wo amazing.
1 and 2.
1 and 2
is like
3 was good. 3 was really well received. David Hayter actually loved 3. The Snake, David Hayter, what a guy. So he actually preferred 3 because it had a deeper story about the big boss. How he became the big boss. खैर वो एक geeky conversation शुरू हो जाएगी.
So I mean, coming back to so where do you see it heading in the future? Like
gaming?
Is there going to be on game and film? Like is a new hybrid form of entertainment going to be like a film where you are actually playing it like a game?
Well, I mean, VR is a part of that. I don't know if you saw that YouTube concert where they had projection.
I read about it.
I saw some of it. I couldn't tell what was happening until I read what was being done here. And
there's some new venue.
So it was a ball-shaped arena where people could actually see from every angle, everywhere. It's a 360 screen, or at least I don't know 180 or something. I don't know. And you could. It was like I felt they were performing in a desert, and then I realized मैंने caption पढ़ा. I was like, what?
So they're just on a platform and there's screens
and
everywhere.
it's projection. And I think that is a good way of getting into the next phase of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because once you get your audience and make them a part of the film, that is one way of looking at it. Where the cinema is the movie, the audience is a part of it. I don't know how else you can get into it. It's difficult to shoot something like that.
Yeah.
How are you gonna post produce it? How are you gonna pre-produce it? How are you gonna shoot it?
Yeah.
The theater could be something like that, where you can take theater, live theater, live act, and showcase it in an arena which is very interactive. That is something that I feel ke ho sakta hai, you know. I can go on forever.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm more of a film person rather than theater. But mujhe film, Unreal Engine is something that is truly like very rapidly taking over the film industry. And my own film is actually used that technology. Very few people in Pakistan are doing it, but they're doing it right. And I'm so happy that we're trying to do something, you know, at least industry se bahar wale jo hain, jo outsiders hain, wo at least kuch kar rahe hain.
Bilkul.
So that industry can adapt to it and we can kind of come up with something else other than divorce dramas and
same old nonsense.
Same old. वही भैंस का दूध पिला रहे हैं पिछले पता नहीं कितने सालों से. मीठा लग रहा है. अभी आया एक और. You know, same thing. Print कर दो सबको. जो अच्छा एक छक्का लगे वो छक्के बार-बार दिखाओ बस. Highlight कर दो उसको. This is my problem with like, and even with like the pioneers of our drama industry. That one show that kind of revived the drama industry. That was taken, that it was a phenomenon, right? So usko bas dekha ke yaar ye, this is the benchmark now. हमने सब ने यही follow करना है.
हमसफर की बात.
हमसफर, of course it goes without saying. We know कि वही drama था जिसने industry को revive किया है दोबारा. I mean, we had some amazing dramas before that, of course we did, but we have some good dramas, but the thing is कि वही हमारे लोग भी तो वही पीना चाह रहे हैं दूध.
नहीं, but I mean it's funny because अब पाकिस्तान में भी Netflix है ना. Netflix खोलोगे and you know, most watched in Pakistan. It's a funny list always. But
shocking as well.
But clearly they're into things beyond what is being made here, right? Yet we are not making different things.
We suffocation leads to that because your own industry is so backward. It's so suppressed that you will go to another avenue and try to like अपनी भड़ास निकालोगे कि यार मैं कुछ और देख लूँ, कहीं और देख लूँ. Okay, you know. So if you like isolate yourself and your industry, which is supposed to educate our audience, and उनको वही चीज बार-बार दिखाओगे तो obviously उनको
educate का हम तो उनको मतलब बिल्कुल destroy कर रहे हैं. इस content
हम brainwash भी नहीं कर पा रहे because we are even bad at that. I think content in Pakistan, there's so much talent here. I mean, and again, I sound very cliche, but hai talent in Pakistan, no doubt. But because of the system, because of the requirement and the whole setting, okay, wait, time nahi hai, jaldi, what is gonna sell, you know, ye sari cheezein jo hain, what is gonna be well received quickly, you know, risk liye baghair. कैसे छक्का मारे. ये एस्पेक्ट बहुत मुश्किल है because if you think like that, if you don't take risks, then you'll be stuck in that same suicidal, you know, वही death trap के वही content create हो रहा है, वही चीज़ आ रही है, वही चलता रहेगा. IVS का भी एक film festival हुआ था actually, Nuplex पे हुआ था. I was a part of one of the
recently
films.
Right?
Yeah. So I was a part of this one student film, and I was really, you know, it was a pleasure because I got to work with young talent, and at least those kids are trying to do something, you know, rather than हमारी अपनी industry. So I was really happy about that. मैं बड़ा impressed भी हुआ. Student films हैं, but they're still good, and they were screened on cinemas. That was a huge deal. And मज़ा भी आया, and मुझे ये भी खुशी हुई देख के कि लोग जो बच्चे कर रहे हैं, students are learning new things. They want to do, like I saw sci-fi, you know. I was a part of that film, Sentinel Jet. I was the main antagonist villain tha.
Achha.
And like before we were starting, I was saying na कि I love playing the villain because you can be a dick and you can be an asshole, and I love that. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So कर दिया मैंने. I didn't act. I was actually venting. Nice. So they were like, all that. So that was cool. But my point was that IVS is actually, rolling out some interesting talent as well. Because I at some point I was very close with a lot of people in there. So my interaction young talent ke saath hota hai, and I look at them and I'm like, thank God, at least kuch to kar rahe hai. At least kuch to ho raha hai. They're trying, and hopefully they're going to change things.
But yeah, I think let's wrap up with some, what can people expect from you? You said you haven't posted on social media for over a year now.
Almost.
So when are you going to come out of the hibernation?
When things are available for me to put out, I guess, because it's all being baked. Working on film, it's not easy to make a film with your own money, with something so risky. You know that it's not going to be able to screen in a Pakistani cinema. You know that it's not. And still taking that risk. And then there's a lot of pressure of making sure that you're technically so sound and at least kahin aur to chali jayegi. So you have to make sure that everything that you're doing in post-production and the way the whole thing is made is so well received by maybe in a film festival or some streaming platform ke wo at least well received ho jaye. तो इसलिए मुझे time लग रहा है. It's a sci-fi horror / psychological thriller, my favorite genres. I'm in it myself. I think वो हुआ इसलिए because I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have been on the camera because I would prefer being behind it. But because I was the protagonist in my 4 videos. And it's based on my 3rd album. I had to play that role because I was already aware of what needed to be done, and I had a good team. I had 2 to 3 assistant directors who were just like me, kind of knew my vision. So they really helped make sure that mera apna message convey ho jaye. Every time I was on camera, they were very crucial, critical of my performance, and they told me that ye galat hai. So that was good. But I prefer being behind the camera. Even though I love acting, I love it. So वो मुश्किल हो रहा है to post-produce it because there's so much CGI, VFX, frame by frame, rotoscoping, compositing, then simulations जो कि यहाँ पाकिस्तान बहुत कम लोग करते हैं. There's sharp images maybe and mostly ice animation who does good simulations. There's Lucid, they've tried, but it's difficult. It's difficult to come up with photorealistic simulations and CGI and VFX. And that is the one thing that's holding me back because that photorealism is something that I'm aiming to achieve.
Right.
And वो बहुत मुश्किल है.
So can you tell us anything about the general
the plot?
Synopsis of it?
Oh man,
is it also called Playroom or is it called something else?
It is called Playroom. It was supposed to be a 3-minute short film, but then it pura ek science project ban gaya. The reason it's called Playroom is because the story is about Playroom. That how we're in a it's. I mean, I don't want to spoil it or say too much.
But like some kind of simulated reality.
Yeah, like I mean, sci-fi. It's a given when the movie starts, you know that it's a simulation. Because what the many music videos maybe, but how and why and, all
to what end.
To what end and is it really, or am I even real,
quantum reality.
So ये चीजें जो film के अंदर you get to see and it's very well defined. I took my sweet time and very little dialogue, a lot of musical storytelling with the help of colors, direction.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So storytelling में मैंने colors and just visual aid के साथ कोशिश की है. Where I used dialogue when I really had to use dialogue. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Like, I don't want to spoil it.
No, of course. Looking forward to.
Oh man, you'll be one of the first people I'm gonna show it to.
I would love to. But yeah, this has been probably one of the most interesting podcast so
Really?
far since we've
For me to- I've
jumped
never-
around absolutely everywhere.
I've never been on a podcast. I should have said this in the beginning, actually. I've done TV commercial interviews.
Yeah.
TV interviews. तो वो तो मतलब वो होता है ना कि आप शादी की बात करने गए हैं. You have to be very nice. रिश्ते की बात करने जा रहे हैं ना. मतलब अभी वो चाय लेकर आएगी आप देखेंगे अगर मैं बहुत अच्छा हूँ. No man, I need to fucking say who I am, like tell you who I am, be who I am, and this is who I fucking am. You know.
Yeah. No, that's the whole point, and I'm glad you shared with us so openly.
Thank you for having me, yaar. I mean,
No worries.
it's a pleasure. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you guys for watching. Anyone who's made it to the end, and please share your comments and check out Faraz's music if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.